Every contract that you win is going to start with a lead. One of the biggest problems companies encounter when they are initially going after government contracts or are just trying to optimize what they're doing is the process. What is the process? What opportunities should I go after? How do I find those opportunities? After I find those opportunities, what do I do with them? How do I close those? How do I turn those into closed contracts? Some people spend years figuring out what the actual process looks like. Imagine taking your existing business and generating an additional $2 million a year in revenue for the product, service, technology that you sell. What we're going to do is take what often takes years for a small business to figure out, and in a few minutes, I'm going to show you part of that system. So I'm going to show you what opportunities to go after and how to find those opportunities. Welcome to a new 3-part series based off of our new book, The Government Contract Planner. And in that planner, we show you how to find leads, turn those leads into meetings, and then through a systemized pipeline, turn those meetings, those leads into closed contracts. So this is episode number 1 of the 3-part series, which is leads. Our book, The Government Contract Planner, is now available on Amazon. Go check it out. Before we get started, you guys can head on over to dodcontract.com, which is our hub for information and the services that we provide. Every contract that you win is going to start with a lead. Now, I don't care if you find that lead on Sam.Gov, or if it's a lead from an existing customer, or if it's a lead from a prime and you're a subcontractor. However you find that lead, a lead it is. And you're going to turn that lead into a meeting, meaning a conversation with an actual person in the government that has a requirement and funding that could put you on contract. And then you're going to take that now vetted lead, meaning not just an idea, but now this is something that the government wants what you're selling. You're speaking with them and you're taking that and you are managing it in a pipeline through persistence and follow-up and probably a proposal that you're going to have to write. You're turning that into a contract. This is the system that wins contracts. The average small business that's selling to the government makes a little over $2 million a year, and that fluctuates each year. So my goal for you is to be able to set up a system that's doing that for your business. You can certainly make a lot more. You can make a lot less. Depends on what you're selling, how good the product or service is. This is the system you want to follow. First, I want you to avoid the biggest mistake companies make when they're looking for leads. And that mistake is that they go on Sam.Gov and they find something called a request for proposal, a request for quote, or a product, service, technology that you sell. And you think it's perfect. And you write a proposal for that. And that's a lot of work. You send it in and nothing. You don't hear anything. And that's because you're too late to the process. Now, I'm not saying you can't ever win a contract that way. I am saying that your time will be better spent finding opportunities way before an RFP or RFQ. What I'm going to ask you to do is the same thing that I ask my clients to do. We're going to not look at requests for proposals or requests for quotes right now. We're looking for opportunities that come before that. Okay, we have avoided the biggest mistake. We are not looking at RFPs or RFQs. So you're probably saying to yourself, all right, Rick, this all is very confusing to me anyway. How do I find the leads that actually make sense for our business? Now, lead strategy number 1, I call this the RFI, request for information, or sources sought strategy. Now, what is a request for information or sources sought? This is when the government on Sam.Gov puts out a request for information from companies like yours on whatever it is that they want to purchase. So if they are purchasing cybersecurity services, they might be asking, can small businesses do this type of cybersecurity service? Can they protect data at rest? can they provide people to install software X? If they were looking at accountants, they might be looking for the latest technology for bookkeeping. Okay. They're going to ask questions. When I was a program manager on the government side, these were great resources for the government to help build the solicitation. So that request for proposal that comes later, that you write a proposal on, how do you think the government comes up with the information that goes into that? Well, they have a requirement, they have a need, but the program manager and the contracting officer on the government side are not the experts in cybersecurity or bookkeeping. That's your company. And I'm just using those as examples. So it could be for anything. It could be for guitars or landscaping services or you name it, legal services. So any kind of technology. So they're going to look and see, okay, what is in the realm of the possible? What are the best practices? Are there certain licenses or certifications that we should require? Is there a certain type of past performance? Is there a certain technology that's out that we're not aware of that could help streamline our process or make it cheaper for the government? Now, I've done entire podcast episodes on how to respond to a sources sought or an RFI, but what you need to know is that your objective with this response is to eliminate competition and influence how the government's going to make the purchase to the best of your ability. You eliminate by recommending that the government sets aside the contract for your type of business. And there's several other ways that you can do this. Now, this is also a critical component and it's lead strategy number one for a reason, because this is a great way to set up a meeting with the government by responding to a sources sought or a request for information. The next thing you're going to do is request a meeting, and we'll cover that in the next episode. Lead strategy number two is for companies that are already selling to the government. You're on contract, you're selling, you'd be surprised how many companies don't actually talk to the customer, the government customer on the other end. One of the best ways to sell to the government is to stay in constant communication with your customer, asking them, does the product/service meet their needs? Is there anything you can improve? Every third conversation might be, do you need any more of what we're selling? Did you know that we also provide these services or these products or solutions? And it's not always going to be a yes, but you'd be surprised just how much is going to come from these meetings. And something else you can do with lead strategy number two is you can ask your government customer if they know anybody else that could use your product or service. Because guess who government acquisitions officers hang out with? That's right, other government acquisitions officers. So if you have a product or service, they may know somebody that you can connect with. And I've connected people many times. So this is something that you just have to ask for. Most companies don't. So that's lead strategy number two. Lead strategy number three involves tapping into government acquisitions forecasts that are published by the major federal agencies. Now, it's a little bit more difficult to find these, but it is not hard. Okay. In fact, if you typed into your search engine DoD acquisitions forecasts, I bet you would find it. But another way to do this is look for the small business office associated with the agency you're selling to. And that could even be a sub-agency. If it was the Army, it could even be within the Army Corps of Engineers. So you could say Army Corps of Engineers, small business office, and look for acquisitions forecasts on that website. Department of Energy, NASA, whoever it is that you're selling to, whoever your target is. And we've had other podcast episodes on how to develop your niche, how to focus on a government customer. So I'm not going to go into that right now. Whoever that is, you want to go to that agency website, look for acquisitions forecasts. And if you can't find it, go to the small business office and it should be there. And if you can't find it there, email the small business office and ask them where the acquisitions forecast is. Now, what that's going to look like is usually a spreadsheet. And what they're doing is every agency is different. Some are better than others, but usually they're forecasting what they're going to be spending money on. And it's not all encompassing, but over the next year to 3 years. And then you can take the opportunities that apply to you and start tracking those in your pipeline. Usually, each opportunity is also going to have a point of contact or a POC. They're also usually going to have an amount or a ROM, a rough order of magnitude cost estimate associated with each of those. So you could see how great a acquisitions forecast could be, because now you might find 5 great opportunities over the next year and a half with a POC, a point of contact that you can put in there. You can reach out to those people and ask them, hey, when do we see this coming? Are we still on track? Is there something I could set up a demo with you for? Could I request a meeting? These are all things that you could do. You could call them. Sometimes the phone number's in there. Picking up the phone is not something very many companies are doing. So remember that when we are looking at acquisitions forecasts and really any of the methods for lead generation. Now, if you're unfamiliar with any of these methods, you could certainly check out DoD Contract Academy, where we go in depth on each one of them. And you can follow us and learn step by step how to execute lead strategy number 1, number 2, number 3. You can attend the bi-weekly coaching calls and ask questions about your specific niche, because each one of you with a business is going to experience different challenges, I guess you could say. Or some of you just may need a little bit more explanation. So that's a good entry-level way to get answers by people that have been in the business for a while and learn in a online environment, maybe what you should be doing, what your sales team should be doing. Okay, that is the episode for this week. Hopefully this was helpful. What you should have gotten from this is lead strategy 1, lead strategy number 2, and lead strategy number 3. You can get more information by just going to Amazon and checking out the Government Contract Planner, which is our book that's now released. You can buy the digital version or the hardcover version if you want something that you could take notes in. I'd love to help you win some contracts. Let's go get them. Thanks for listening this week. Next week, we're going to be on to part 2, and that's going to be taking these leads that you found and turning them into meetings. I think you're going to really love that episode. Check that out, and we'll see you next week.